Dave Schumann here for the Success for Life podcast. I got a special guest with me today, Dane Maxwell. We're going to really get into the weeds today, and it's going to be a unique podcast, and that we're going to be taking principles of entrepreneurialism and becoming an entrepreneur. And it's like the hottest topic for anybody. If you go on YouTube and you go anywhere and you want to learn about what that takes. And then how specifically you might be able to apply that as an athlete as well. So, we're gonna get into the weeds in that. And thanks for coming on, Dane.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. As you were saying all that, I was thinking about, okay, so the context of this call is entrepreneurial mindset. And I guess just to set the stage for people that know, like, results matter. You want to listen to someone that knows what they're talking about. I've started 2 7-figure businesses. I've started an Inc. 5,000 fastest growing company. I've had 15 of my students become millionaires, many of them multimillionaires. A lot of my students are now top players in their field. And so I do know what I'm talking about. And I just say that not to brag, but just so we can get down to the point and use time effectively. And that context of entrepreneurial mindset and it being like a hot topic is like, oh, I can definitely show you how to think like an entrepreneur. And we can definitely explore, maybe not as definitely explore, but explore how that thinking could create really, really exceptional performance as an athlete.
Awesome. And give a little bit about your background. How did you find this as your path? Where'd you come from? What'd you do before the previous life and all that?
I mean, today, as I'm reflecting on this, it seems as though, like, as I'm thinking about it, entrepreneurship, an internet-based entrepreneur, failure doesn't hurt as bad as like a public loss in a sport, So I was like, you know what, this is the least humiliating way to learn, because you do have to fail to learn. You do. It's unavoidable. And so, like, once you're like, okay, I'm just gonna get totally annihilated today, and you just accept that as a way of life, then it just becomes a lot easier. And so as entrepreneurship, I was like, you know what, I can stomach this behind a computer screen. And it also was, in terms of like having a family and wanting predictable wealth, I saw business as the easiest, safest, most reliable and predictable way to make a ton of money. And also that was, but initially, then it just became this wealth. It just became about, I think it became about a predictable way to generate wealth. Really. It's very predictable. It's like, you said some of your listeners are like, they're searching for success, and others are, really interested in athleticism. And like, for the crowd that's like searching for success, it's like, you are your own source of suffering. Like, success is so mechanical and so simple and so stupid methodical that, I mean, there are plenty of dysfunctional, broken people that are successful because they execute the mechanics really, really well. The success is truly mechanical. Now, there are certain personality types that struggle to execute when they're stressed out, and there are certain personality types that thrive on that kind of stress. So to understand that, like, if you are struggling to be successful and you are interested in it, you are your own worst enemy. It is all about you, and it is really your issue. And when you accept that and realize that, like, success will be inevitable when you follow the mechanics correctly, then you're like, crap, oh, now I might actually be successful. And that would have to shift your whole identity. Because for me, I didn't ever think I would be successful. I thought I would just be a worthless pile of crap for most of my life, just because of the bullying and stuff I went through. So then I started becoming successful, and I was like, no, this can't be. It can't be true. Anybody can do what I do. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Then I found out I was, like, really good at this. And then I was like, crap, I'm really good at this. So, like, I went and hid because I felt like a total piece of crap on the inside, even though I had all this success on the outside. I had accolades, I had fame, I had female interest, I had all these things, and didn't matter because I felt like garbage on the inside. And so when I felt like garbage and had success, and one, I realized that the way to transform or heal or transcend feeling like garbage is being okay feeling like garbage. And like, you just like let that thing be as big and loud and like realize it's not me. And then I do that. And then that finally created the happiness that I was looking for. It wasn't business. It was facing the and continuing to face the most primal, debilitating, self-image creating feelings that made me feel like garbage. So to the crowd of people searching for success, write down success is mechanical. And if it lands for you, drop an F-bomb in there. Success is blah, blah, blah mechanical. Because, and then you just look at that, just write it down, look at that sentence, set a timer for 10 minutes and look at that sentence and watch if you crawl out of your skin. And you'll see it's about you. Now, in terms of
can you touch a little bit on the mechanics component of success? So,
yeah, absolutely.
You know, for I like to take it and bring it down to a level so everybody can understand. And so, what are the mechanics that go into success? Since you know we listen to every self-help guru, first thing they say is you gotta, and you're kind of flipping this on its head. They'll say, well, you know, you have to believe in yourself and you have to do all these different things before you can become successful. And you're kind of saying something a little bit different, that it's mechanical and there's basically a process to it, right? Like, you know, I coach football, and one of those things I always say is like, if you want to be able to win a championship or be great, you have to follow the process. If you don't follow the process, you're never going to be able to get there. So you're saying the same thing with success, which I really like, because we can address the feelings and the bullying aspect as separate issues, which I think are important to be able to do because they are different issues. So explain the mechanics of success.
Have you ever listened to Charlie Munger, the Warren Buffett's partner, on interviews?
Yes.
By chance?
Yes.
The dude is nuts. Like he answers things with like 3 or 4 words. And like he can get away with it because he's like worth $1.8 billion. You know, like I was listening to this interview of him on Yahoo Finance, and like he's my favorite interview person I've ever heard. The interviewer says, for example, someone said that, you know, the economic debt isn't really affecting the economy or something. And Munger's like, if you believe in that, you believe in the tooth fairy. And just nothing, didn't say anything else. Like, in terms of experimenting with that level of explanation, in terms of mechanics, it is get out of your head, find a human being, find a fundamentally awful problem they face, document and articulate and write down that problem that they are facing, and then turn on your creativity and find an expert who can create a product to solve that problem for you, and then give them a piece of the business. You run it, give them 20% maybe, and then you run the business, and you are no longer limited by your level of expertise. You're no longer limited by your levels of self-confidence because you don't have to be the person solving the problem. So fundamentally, every income stream is based on a customer with a problem that you give a solution to and make an offer to. Customer, pain, solution, offer. If you've got a customer, a clear pain, a clear solution, and a clear offer, you get really rich. Really, really rich. And like, if you don't, then you do okay. Like, you can get by. Like, it's actually very easy to survive and get by in the world. Like, it's like very, very easy. You can be laissez-faire, you can be unclear, you can be, one of my friends was an architect, and the guy's like, so what do you do? He's like, I'm an architect. He's like, you're never going to be successful if you talk like that. You're just an architect. And then he like helped him articulate. He's like, I'm an architect for high-end clients, and I help them design the home of their dreams. Whoa, okay, which architect's going to make more money? Is it about the idea? No, it's about the whatever I just did there. And so customer, pain, solution, offer. So if you got a customer, like you could, like, let's say you find a customer with a parrot, and their parrot's biting you and pooping everywhere, right? And so the customer with a parrot, the problem is they bite you and they poop everywhere. It's terrible. It's a fundamentally awful issue. Bird poop on the floor of your house. Gross. Solution, well, some parrot training program that gets them to stop pooping and biting. Offer, I don't know, parrots 500. How much? Let me Google this. How much does a parrot cost? Okay, parrot costs, good Lord, anywhere from $200 up to $3,000. Okay, so let's like, all right, so that's a good price anchor. African gray parrots, $1,500 to $3,000. I hear those are amazing, by the way. One guy like quantified all these things in consciousness, and dogs wagging their tail, cats purring, and African gray parrots singing like emit love, like at a super high level, like if a dog's wagging his tail. like, you know, some people have dogs, they supposedly live 10 years longer because of all the joy of the dog extends the
Right.
human's life, all this weird. But anyway, so you got a parrot pooping and biting everywhere. Hopefully if you spend $1,500, it's not that parrot. But if it is, so you've got now a solution, a parrot training program. You sell it for say $200. So customer, people own parrot, problem, pooping and biting. Solution, parrot training program, offer $200. The solution, you go out, you can go to, like I can go to, I'll type in, since I'm in Des Moines, Iowa, I'll go to Des Moines, Iowa parrot store. Des Moines, Iowa parrot store, and I'll see Wild Birds Unlimited, Aqualand Pets Plus, Des Moines Feed. There's more places. I'll find the one that's Aqualand Pets Plus, 557 Google reviews. And I'll call these people up and I'll ask if they have any parrot experts on staff. They say yes, and then I'll ask them if I can talk to them. And they say, hey, listen, can we do an iPhone and record some videos and create a course and help you make some passive income? And now you have a business and you don't have to be an expert. And like, so when I talk about like it's stupid, simple, and mechanical, like once you realize that you've been fed bull, manure crap your whole life about like, I mean, especially like, one of the insidious things that I think about even being an athlete is that you have to be your own technical expert. If you're injured, you're screwed. But as a company owner, anything can happen to you, you still make money because you've learned the fundamental principles. So how to think like an entrepreneur. Most everyone on the internet has this totally ass backwards. Here's how to start an Amazon store. Here's how to start a Shopify store. All that stuff is just, and for one, I hate it. I absolutely hate it because it's a gimmick to make money. And that's what they're getting in. How about solving someone's problem? How about improving the actual world? How about actually helping someone to make money? And that parrot product would actually help someone's home be clean, help them stop suffering from the pain of getting bit. And there's actually a site called birdtricks.com, and a guy kills it selling parrot training. So, I mean, you don't have to be the expert. And like, now you're like, oh crap. Okay, success is the kid. Why haven't I been told this before? Well, I don't know. I'm here telling you now. But in terms of thinking like entrepreneurship, that is the beginning.
And that's why people, I think, have had they fail when they go and sell books on Amazon, because after a while, once everything just becomes about price or about you know what the algorithm is, there's no real differentiation between one person to the next. And that's why Amazon wins in that and you lose. The bottom line is Amazon wins. They want no differentiation. They just want everybody on there so they have products for their customer, which they're solving the problem on. But you're not actually providing any solutions or problems for the market. They're the ones providing the solutions to market, and you're getting kind of squeezed out. And that's, I think, the important thing when people are looking for businesses to develop. When athletes are looking to solve their own issues from a development standpoint, you have to understand what the problem is before you can go and work your way to getting the solution and find out what people need in that problem. And it's really probably some simple questions in any niche. So is it a niche based thing? I mean, is it okay?
No, I mean some of the biggest. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no. Talk a little bit about that, like where you can go with it.
You could be in a niche and like parrots, and that's great, but like there are like category products. Like clickfunnels.com is for like every niche of business, or like Lead Pages is like for every niche of business. Your first business, like your confidence is going to be like extremely low, so you generally probably want to pick some like micro niche that like you can like ease in and no one's going to know if you fail and no one's going to know what you're doing. You can kind of build your confidence up to the point where you can talk about it on podcasts like me after you've been doing it for 15 years. But in terms of like, how do you apply entrepreneurial thinking to athleticism? Well, true entrepreneurial thinking in my experience is a couple things. First, it's not being a technician that trades time for money. A true entrepreneur can build a business that they don't have to work in. And if you have your own business, but if you stop working, you don't make money, that's not a business, that's a job that you call a business. An entrepreneur can build a business they do not have to work in, right? So I have a business called paperlesspipeline.com. It'll do over $2 million this year. It's got a CEO. It's got minimum 25% profit margins. And I built that for 3 years and I put it in a CEO's hands and I stepped away. But the first day that I built that thing, I set with the intention that I will step away. So our time is the most valuable thing we'll ever have. So that is why we should never exchange it for something so readily available like money. Do not exchange your most valuable resource of time, which you will never get back the moment you're listening to me right now. And you will never get back the moments that you spend for money. So do not do it. So first, entrepreneurs understand the value of their time so deeply that they do not exchange in things unless they are building equity or ownership. Technicians could care less. They haven't been trained. They're the doctors, the attorneys, the lawyers. They're glorified. You could be a neurosurgeon and still be a technician and not a business owner. But if neurosurgery is your calling and your blessing, you do that, and then you build equity with other things. So entrepreneur fundamentally trades time for ownership, trades time for equity, trades time for freedom. Technician fundamentally trades time for money. You are going to hire technicians for your business. And it is not a bad thing to be a technician, especially if you really like being a technician. It's just bad to be a technician if all of your income depends on it. So now we've got entrepreneur trades time for equity, technician trades time for money. That's the first thing. One of the other things is that entrepreneurs, fundamentally successful entrepreneurs, understand on a deep level that they do not get to decide what works. They do not get to decide what works. They do not get to decide what works. 11 of my businesses failed, 5 succeeded, 11 that failed were all my own ideas. I did not get to decide what works. I don't get to decide what people are interested in. That means I listen. That means we ask questions, right? So in terms of then after that, so trade time for equity, we don't get to decide what works. The next thing then is finding fundamentally awful problems. And by the way, this is all in the book that I've written. I put all this laid out in the book. It's like less than 300 pages. It's fully comprehensive. If you read the book and lived the pages in this book, you'd have no problem being successful. But that's a different topic. But the reason I'm able to articulate this all so well and clearly is because I spent 2 years thinking about putting it in a book. But when it comes to the entrepreneur and the athleticism, the next thing an entrepreneur does is they have developed a keen sense for finding fundamentally awful issues, both tiny, micro, and macro. And then they go in and they articulate with words those difficult issues. And if you did that as an athlete with your own performance and not just in your head, you would super accelerate your performance as an athlete. So, maybe if you're a boxer, you notice your footwork is clumsy, right? And you notice that footwork, if you start moving around, you start getting, so you come, okay, applying entrepreneurial thinking, problem solving, okay, fundamentally awful issue, my footwork sucks. All right, so you write it down and you just look at it for 10 minutes and you just look at the problem crystal clear in front of you written down. If you did that one thing alone as an athlete, I tell you what, I think that would be pretty special. I don't think many athletes do that.
I would agree that I think they do what they're told and don't think about what maximizes their performance, and by solving their own solving the problems of what they have to specifically do, they get into cookie cutter systems, and then, as I say, the chips fall where they may, and then then you're always leaving it up to whatever your pure. And it's the same thing in business. If you leave it up to what your pure talent level is, and you don't figure out how to solve the problems, then you're only going as far as your talent level can take you. And people think that they overestimate their talent level and underestimate their ability to solve problems. I think it's got to be flipped. You've got to really focus on solving the problems and not overestimating what their talented is, their talent level is. And so I think that kind of brings to, where maybe because of some of the things that happened to you, and how you felt about yourself and how you had to overcome that, and bullying, probably maybe, and I'm guessing here, but could have forced you to be introspective on how to solve your own problems and issues, which then maybe allowed you to become the success you are in business. Talk a little bit about that, because I definitely think that's something that hits home with kids and young adults. And the vast majority of them are dealing with that within themselves in some form or capacity.
We are not what we think we are, and we never will be. Even if we think positive things, that's still not who we are. So if you ask yourself, what do you secretly think about yourself? I hear loser. Now, in the past, that would debilitate me because I actually believed the thought. But it's only a thought. So if we consider that the worst thing that we think about ourselves is only a thought, and then we open up into the vastness beyond that, then we see infinite. We sometimes can taste who we really are, which is infinite potential. And there are human beings that do demonstrate this. It's just very rare. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger, #1 bodybuilder, #1 box office actor, #1, like he's a governor of California. I mean, we can be anything with, like, people told Arnold that no one would want to watch him in movies because his accent was so awful and thick. It became his defining quality.
Right.
Oh, what are the kindergarten cop phrases? Do you know any of those? Do you remember?
I know this. Get to the chopper.
I mean, it's some.
I'll be back. I'll be back from Terminator.
Come on, man.
I still use that to this day when I leave. I say, I'll be back.
So this is like, if you want to find out what you secretly think of yourself, ask. And if you want the worst thing in your experience to come up, sit still and do nothing. And when you do nothing, it'll come up, and then you can do your best to meet it and hold it. Because whatever you cannot face in your own private thoughts, I think will ruin your life in some way. And so it has mine, you know. And so what we do is we learn that identity, who we think we are, at the end of the road is only a thought. So when I ask what I secretly think of myself, I hear loser. Is deep programming. But then it's my choice whether I believe it or not. And that totally warps, that disorients my vision. So, yeah. Does that answer? That's what I
Yeah, no, definitely. I think one of the other things that people struggle with is when they envision themselves a certain way, they think that other people view them that same exact way. And
yes.
You don't really, my thing always is the vast majority of people are concerned with their own daily issues and their own insecurities as well. And instead of looking to the outside for help, like someone has the solution, obviously seek professionals when you can, but seek within yourself to start solving. Because what I found is that people are just trying to figure things out for themselves. And I've seen, if you listen really closely to people speak, even the people that are the most successful people, their story has all these bumps in the road. And if you listen to the key parts of their story, the key parts of their story is when they figured out how to get past the bumps in the road. And that's the whole key to every single person's story. A lot of times people focus, and the outside focus is on the result of where they ended up going. But if you really listen, and that's the big mistake, if you listen to someone's story, they're building you the roadmap of how they overcame the issue, because everyone has different issues, but how they overcame their own personal demons. And that's the key, is that to understand, first of all, that everybody has them in some capacity. If you don't have them, you're not human. You are definitely a robot. And there might be some robots out there nowadays, so I don't know. I mean, but other than science, everybody is wired and has some sort of issue. Like, I always used to feel like, despite being, popular in high school and athletic and successful things, I always felt like I didn't fit in. Like, I felt like when I would be at a party that people were looking at me like, why is he here, or what, type of thing. And it wasn't until I got older that I realized that everybody else was thinking almost the same exact thing when you're at a teenage party, right? When you're at a teenage party and you're sitting there and you don't know what the heck's going on, and you're looking at someone else and maybe they're talking. Well, talking might be their way of solving their inadequacy, so they could get through the fact that they don't feel comfortable, right? So they might talk to get through that. And as I learned those kind of things, I realized, okay, well, just, focus when you're in a social situation on things you know about, things that are general in the beginning that everyone can somewhat relate to. And then you kind of build rapport. You put them at ease, they put you at ease, and then it works from there. And was the hardest thing for me personally to get through. And probably part of it is I, grew up in a divorced family and had to get through some things. And maybe that forced me to look at things a little bit differently. But once I learned that, you're 100% right. Get away from your own head. When you feel that feeling coming on, when it starts to overwhelm you, like, I feel like a loser, or I don't feel good about myself, or I don't feel like getting up, take a second, take a deep breath, get out of your head, jump in a cold shower, whatever you got to do, and then reassess it once you've kind of stepped back from where you are. I like what you said about do nothing. Like, doing nothing, to me, when something's bothering you or you're not feeling right, if you do nothing and just kind of exist, breathe, and take a minute, I think you'll get past it, because your mind moves faster than you realize. And your mind feels a certain way in a certain instance, and then we'll move out of it. And then we'll move back into it if you allow it to dwell, if you allow it to consume you. I think about the worst times in my life, and I think, wow, I allowed something to really consume me, that if I just took a few seconds to kind of get out of it, it wouldn't have been as bad as I made it out to be. And then once you start to understand that, you're going to have here's the reality check. Problems are always going to be there. They're always going to be there. It's never going to go away from anybody. You become really rich. People look at you the same way. Then you feel like you should keep up that same. You have to keep to that same level, and you have to be able to realize that none of that stuff matters. But what really matters is how you can solve each problem each day within yourself. And then pat yourself on the back a little bit when you solve that problem. You make $1 million because you solved a problem that helps others. Take a second to pat yourself on the back on it, and pat the other people that helped you out with it as well, because that gives you a place to start from. How do you what are some techniques you might use to help people start to understand how to solve their own problems, and solve others in some cases from a business standpoint?
I think it's all illustrated in that parrot example. So you'd find somebody, it'd be really interesting if you did it with athletes. Go to your athlete friends and you say, what are some of your frustrations as an athlete? What are the things you think about most often as an athlete? What are the things that really get under your skin as an athlete? And you just listen and really listen. And all of a sudden you're actually going to help someone. You're not trying to do a gimmick online. And you actually create something 100% unique. Because I was thinking, Paperless Pipeline, that business, is over 10 years old. Amazon can't blow that store over. It's not an Amazon store. Facebook can't tank my business because I'm not dependent on Facebook. I've got 1,400 customers that pay every month, no matter what anything on the internet does. And those kind of businesses are amazingly fun to start because they're about a person's problem. So you ask these about athletes, they're like, well, they start talking about that. You'll start thinking about solutions. You'll be able to partner with my pregnant partner, for example. I did the process on her Ask what are your issues you're facing right now? And she said, well, I got nausea. And I was like, what would your dream solution to the nausea be? She's like, well, it's like a little droplet I could put on my tongue or under my tongue and the nausea would go away. Cool. Would you pay for it? Yeah. How much? Well, 25, $50. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to go look up acupuncturists. Now I'm going to go look up naturopathic doctors. Now I'm going to go find the remedy. That's it. What makes it difficult for me and for many people is the vulnerability that comes with asking someone about their problems. Like, will they even want to talk about their problems with me? What the fastest way you can accelerate your freedom is to look for what you secretly think of yourself and like allow it to continue to emerge, and then hold it as a dear friend, hold it with love, as real, but not true. This thought is very real. It's not true. So there's no thought you need to get away from. There's no thought you need to shake your head out of. There's no thought you need to change your state around. It's really about meeting your mind exactly as it is in this moment. That's what actually creates happiness. That's the thing. If you're able to meet, happiness is having an internal yes to something. So, you got a gorgeous woman on top of you, sexually expressing herself. If you're a guy, that's easy to say yes to. If you're poor and you don't have a lot of money, that's a little hard to say yes to. But you could say yes to the fact that you hate it, and you'd actually feel better. So meeting your mind exactly where it is right now, as it is, will create a sense of peace and well-being. And now that we know this, now I'm telling you to go out and ask someone about their problems. This will probably trigger fear because you're going to be vulnerable and talk to someone. If you find yourself saying something like, why would they want to talk about their problems with me? Right? That, we know, is an identity that you are believing about yourself as someone who's unworthy of asking someone else about their problems. Or you could find some variation of it. In that sense, you meet and love and hold that thought like a dear friend. Whoa, I'm feeling unworthy of asking someone about their problems. And you love it as real, but definitely not true to who you are. And when you do that, you'll find this epic freedom. And most of the identity-based, mindset-based, self-help guru stuff is so fundamentally poisonous because it's unconsciously teaching us to change, fix, update, delete, or reprogram thinking. And when that happens, we're subtly sending a message that something's wrong and needs to be fixed. And it actually, in my opinion, reinforces the issue in the first place. When we see that no thought or solution, we see, okay, it's like this. When no thought or emotion needs a solution, then we're like, what? And then we see we've been perpetually trying to make things better, perpetually trying to do this. But if you just actually hung out with, I want things to be better, and you hung out with that desire, that's a feeling that you can hold. I want things to be better. If you have that, you're like, I'm unhappy and I want things to be better. If you can actually hang out with that feeling without compulsively acting it out, then that compulsion will dissipate. It will stop stressing you and compelling you. And then you'll just actually do it with like a sense of well-being. It's like I think this is the next level of, I really believe that the next level of human achievement the human frontier is to live and work from a place of joy, and not external situational joy, to work from a place of joy and fulfillment opposed to a place of lack. Like if you actually look at Arnold Schwarzenegger, when he works out, he's happy and he's smiling. When you look at other bodybuilders that compete against him at that time, they were unhappy. they would like, most of them, they'd work out from this place of, oh, my triceps aren't the way I like. I hate my tricep, work tricep. Like that's working out from a place of lack. Arnold Schwarzenegger worked out from a place of joy. And it actually changes. You look at Arnold's muscle definition. The joy and happiness he worked out with literally had a profound impact on his muscle. Like if you work out like as an athlete, you like wake up an athlete, all your time is this. And so you have this lack and this deficit, and you got to get better, and you'll be happy when, instead of working out from joy. And the way you access that joy is realizing that we already are joyful. We already are free. We already are happiness. We forgot. And you can look at a child to remind you, because they like, why are they? Because that's who we are. We are that. So we just believe that we're not, because we've been fed this forever. Whether you need to believe in a savior to be saved and happy, whether you need to buy the nice car to impress your friends, like our minds are vulnerable. So we're programmed with, we're already happy. So if you had joy, for example, in business, like we'll take this for example. So let's say you have dissatisfaction with your financial situation. But instead of just embracing that you're dissatisfied and saying yes to the dissatisfaction, be like, whoa, I feel dissatisfied. I'm a yes to this feeling. And then you just be with it. You can see how it's just driving you mad and taking you all these places.
Right.
Then as you feel that, it starts to dissipate. And you're like, you know what? I still want to make money, but I'm going to do it from a place of free choice now. So the interesting thing is, say someone's deeply dissatisfied with their finances. So then out of deep dissatisfaction, they're like a chicken with their head cut off, bounce against Shopify, bounce against Amazon, bounce against this blog, bounce against this, the whole time they're dissatisfied. Maybe they get lucky enough to find a product idea. They get it launched on Amazon, doesn't sell. So much more frustration, so much more dissatisfaction, versus being aware of your experience, saying yes to your experience, realizing joy is internal and does not depend on an external circumstance, barring, torture and prisons and things like this. But even like, well, who's the guy that was in prison his whole life and he like changed the world? Nelson Mandela?
Yeah.
Like he was like meditating and like finding joy in prison, if I'm aware correctly. But so like, say you have joy and then you launch a product and it doesn't work, but you have joy. From a place of joy, your automatic response is going to be curiosity. Automatic response. Wow, it didn't work. What happened? Let's talk to the customer. Hey, can you tell me what made you not want to buy this? I'm really curious. Oh, I'm more interested in this. Oh, okay. So you go and get that together and offer it to them. But if you don't have joy, if you come from dissatisfaction, you launch a product and it fails. Now you're miserable. You probably hate the customer. You might hate yourself a little more. You might come up with an identity of yourself as a failure, not realizing that that's just a thought. It's only a thought that could blindside and wipe you out like a tsunami if you don't recognize it as only a thought. And it can debilitate, it can hurt, but it still be a thought. It only really hurts if you believe it. It doesn't hurt if it doesn't hurt unless you believe it. So, yeah, that's how I would approach all that.
That's incredible. That really is. That's incredible. Incredible.
Tell me what's going on in your mind.
Well, I just think that it blows me away how the mechanics of understanding yourself and if you really kind of start to think about your mind as a computer, and you think about what the inputs and outputs that come into it and how they shape, what that computer does or doesn't do. It helps you understand that if you start to get in learning in a certain capacity, you could start to move towards that direction. And if you learn tangible things, real things, like the businesses that you've developed, and with a structure of how you want it to be done, it can give real solutions to people problems. It's funny because like the guy who puts out more content than anybody, bar none, is Gary Vee, right? And I mean, I can't get away from his content even when I try to. And it's the same thing over and over again. And we're from the same area. I'm from New Jersey, and I grew up around some guys like Gary Vee. And there are definite things that his stuff helps people with. But once you get past, I call it like the base level, like get your butt off your ass and get moving type stuff, and which he has a way that he does that for people that helps them. But once you get past that, there's very little there. And there's very little there because he is not willing to tell you about what you just said, the mechanics of success, and tell you how it's been done. Because when someone like himself who saw his father have success and he just had to follow that path and then scale it, which is what he's done in his solution-based business, I don't think he truly understands what is necessary there. Like go buy some go buy some baseball cards and resell them. Is not solving a problem for anybody. It's taking on making a hobby into a business, and I think that's a fundamental failure among people when they get into business. They think that they can take a hobby and make it into a business. Now, you could have something that you love to do and make it into a business, or be great at something that you love to do. But until you understand what the end goal from a problem solving standpoint is, you're never going to get that fulfillment for what you're doing. And then you're never going to
do you mind if I jump in for a sec?
Oh yeah, jump in. Yeah.
Please continue back. So let's say you have the parrot product, in terms of the passion. Thanks for allowing the interruption. And I want to get back to what you're saying. So imagine your passion is like, I don't know, you build like toy cars or something, but you love it. You go to hobby stores and you do this. You could maybe do YouTube channels on that. You could talk about your favorite things. You could be a technician and still create equity-based things.
Correct.
But if you want to reliably and quickly make a ton of money, you could do this parrot thing and talk to a customer. You could talk to a customer. You could call the parrot store. You get everything inked and done in a day. Literally a day. Find a problem, find an expert. 1 day. And then you go out and find customers. You still don't have a domain. You still don't have a website. You don't have a business plan. You say, hey, does anybody need help with their parrot? Got this expert. We're putting together this training. It's going to be $200. You're on Facebook. You're somewhere. You're on Craigslist where people are talking about parrot products. Maybe you're emailing people that are on the parrot spot on Craigslist. You're talking to them. You still have a website. And let's say you sell 100 of them in a year and you make an extra 20 grand. If you find someone's real problem, you actually help them, and you walk in their home after their parrot's not pooping in it, and then you're also making 20 grand. You're also giving passive income for 20% profit to the person. You see how much good you're doing. That feels so juicy and good. Whereas when you try to bend your hobby or passion into making it work, you can kind of grow kind of resentful. It feels really good to do something that works, and it just feels awful when it doesn't work.
No, and you're right. That resent part is a very big component. People go into their passion. I love football. I played it, I coach it. Okay. And I have a business based around it. We run programs with it. We scaled it nationwide. We were Inc. 5,000 fastest growing companies.
That's awesome.
And in 2011. But then everybody started doing it. So we scaled, we basically provided a blueprint, right? And so we provided a blueprint for everybody else. There was no intellectual property in how to do some of the things that we did. We just were good at what we did. And then I began to realize that was focused solely on my passion, doing my passion. And then when the passion becomes work and you're not solving a problem, then when the passion becomes work and you're no longer solving a problem, then you go, well, wait a minute. This work is no different than any other work. It's just something that you know about. And that's why I love your parents. Now the question you go and you ask is, you talk to a parent and you say, well, your son is a football player. What is he looking to accomplish? What's the goal there? Where does he ultimately want to be? And that's how we started. Now from, we went like this, skyrocket, sky down, and I figured out that I plateaued it because we stopped the bleeding, because I figured out, okay, we really got to solve problems here. And now it's starting to then reascend. And but that's really the thing, because now the problem solving is much more rewarding. Now you're not just focused on the thing, you're focused on what, how, when, where, all those kind of things that solve the problem. And
Imagine,
yeah.
imagine the football player if he started that parrot thing just for like 90 days, just to experience entrepreneurship. Found a problem, found an expert, sold it. Imagine if he had that meta pattern in his mind around starting a business. He could still play football.
Right.
Imagine if he tried that.
It would be unbelievable. Instead of selling the new clothing thing just because you want to put your name on clothes, right? Everybody's selling clothes.
I really want everyone to have the experience of, like, I want to say, like, identity is a very real thing. And like, I just want to say that everybody listening, like, you are worthy of solving someone's problem. And I say that to myself, and I say that to everyone. You are worthy of solving someone's problem. And now, to a certain part of your identity, that probably hits so nice. You're like, whoa, I'm worthy. And to the part of you that's already infinite and free, you don't need to hear it. But to the part that really does, like, you're worthy of solving someone's problem. I even like want to just, I get my eyes get wet as I say it. Just like, you're worthy of solving someone's problem. You don't have to be the best in the world at something. You don't have to be incredibly gifted. I started with $123 to my name. I could barely get into a state level college. Not that that makes me gifted or not, but you don't have to be gifted to do this. You need to be humble, really, really humble, really humble. Like, if you don't have humility, and you want to be humble because it feels good. Like, you want humility because it feels really good. That's why. And well, and I mean, gosh, what is it? Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart, was like relentlessly humble at number one. Like, he was number one and he was still humble. Like, he was like looking at, like, in Brazil, he was looking at the distance between the aisles to figure out if they were 10 feet, 8 feet, 6 feet, 5 feet, or 4 feet, or whatever it was, to see if they knew something he didn't. He's number one in the world looking at a department store in Brazil. Like, that is humble. And like, when you're humble and you're like, crap, I don't know, let me ask. And then when it comes to selling, well, how are you going to sell the parrot program? Well, you could write down your problem. Need to figure out how to sell parrot program. So what's that going to require? You're going to need to know how to generate traffic. You're going to need to know how to convert traffic. Okay. So now you can go to Google, say ways to generate traffic, and you can find 1 to 100. Then you look up ways to convert traffic, and you'll see, okay, one of the best models is driving a traffic to some sort of free little book that someone can read that gives them a little bit of information that they can then decide if they want the course. Visitor to a free book to information on a course. You hate email capture. You don't want to do email capture. So you're like, I don't want email capture because it's going to be 10% open rates for those people 2 years from now. So those emails are going to be worthless anyway. I'll just give the book away, and the people that want to buy can buy. And maybe you do it that way. But it's if it doesn't work, your pride may get angry. But from a place of humility, you can really change the world. You can change little parts of the world. You can change your product, because unconscious arrogance is pretty rampant. And I catch it with myself all the time. Like, I'll get jealous of someone. Like I'll get jealous of like Tim Ferriss because his podcast is so big and he's got all this attention. And then when I ask, like, with jealousy, what you generally want to do is like, what do I want to learn? What do I admire about Tim? He's a little bit less afraid than I am. Wow. Is there any jealousy of Tim anymore? Yeah, there is. Okay, what else? What else do I want to learn from Tim? Oh, I kind of like him, actually. Wait, I thought I didn't like him. I thought I was jealous. I thought no, he probably has less fear than I do, and I actually like him. Okay, is there more in Tim? Yeah. My heart's crunchy. Like I don't like it. Like, oh dang, I've been rejecting Tim in my own heart. Oh, I secretly want to be on his podcast. Okay, is there more with Tim? Yeah, there is. Holy crap. I want his approval. Now, wait a second. What is the identity behind all of this that just did and spoke all of that? Worthless loser. So that's what I think of myself secretly. Worthless loser. And you know what? That's okay. And that just rocks me because I've been trying to fix that for most of my life, other than being like, hey, dude, that's okay that feeling's there. But no, get the hottest girl. No, get the best business. No, get this. Whoa. What is that really what I want? Worthless loser. So it would make perfect sense that a pretty capable guy like me that still feels like a worthless loser and doesn't know it would try and find one of the most respected men in the space and get his approval. Oh, that's pretty strategic. Hey,
Right.
that worthless loser is actually pretty intelligent. Except, do I really want Tim's approval? Fuck no. I want my own. And I just did it. It's the best of my own ability for that moment. And I did drop an F-bomb on the show, so I apologize.
That's okay. Well, I think we might end right on that because I think that was really, really good. I can't thank you enough for coming on. I'm gonna have to rewatch it because my mind is blown on the way that you think about things, and
we want to free ourselves.
That's right.
You know? We want to know how to free ourselves, and I've been obsessed with it because. So yeah, you're like everything that I'm speaking. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on coaches. Like I'm not just walking around with this crap inside of me. I had to learn this really painfully, and like I spend hours and hours with the best people on mindset I can find, and like all of them were all getting me to try to fix a problem. And then I finally came across a guy that's like, dude, there's no problem. You believing that there's a problem is the problem. That's not even a problem. Just feel that you believe there's a problem. And then it starts if we want to free ourselves. And then like I call him up and he helps me, and I was like, why do I feel free so fast? He's like, well, you're not going to like the answer, but it's because you already are free. You just forgot. And I'm like, no, I must be entrapped. I must be entrapped by my problems. I'm committed to my, oh crap. Okay, no, like, and we want freedom. We do. And then we realize we already are. I just want to say, like, if you want to like have the best parts of my brain, if you do want that disseminated, I did put a book together, and I consider it a gift to humanity. Like I don't leave hardly anything else. It's got the identity-based work in there. It's got the 4 different brains of entrepreneurship that you can build. It's got 15 different examples of employees that transition to entrepreneur. It's got personality data and assessments on a 26-factor analysis of personality called Hexaco, and we did research and found the top 5 traits and the bottom 5 traits. And it's literally a book that you can read and become a walking manual to guard your heart in building a life you dream of. And
where can they get that?
Well,
and where can they follow you too, so everybody knows where they can?
Yeah, well, I wanted to I want to give your listeners, I don't want them to buy the book unless they know they'll read it. because we got a lot of books we buy that we don't read. And so I don't want the most sold book. I really want the most read book. Both would be cool, but only if they really want it. So I got an excerpt just for your listeners, no email capture required, a special URL just for your listeners. And it'll be startfromzero.com/life. Startfromzero.com/life. And that's URL just for you, just for your listeners. I've also got a podcast that people might really like where I just literally straight up mentor people and tell them exactly what to do to build a business. And I do it over and over and over again. So you can see it over and over. Like, so you see parrot example. Like, I don't actually ever bring up parrots that I might, but yeah, you can watch that podcast. And then, but to connect with me and say hi and all that, everything you'll be able to find at startfromzero.com/life. And don't be shy to reach out. You know, I want to help. So.
Perfect. I'll put all that in the show notes. And thanks so much for being on. I really, really appreciate it. The information in here is, like I said, it's mind blowing.
Good.
It gives people a lot to think about, and a different way of looking at things. And hopefully when we, not just in the podcast, but I'll upload it to YouTube. Maybe an algorithm can push us above some of the ones that just put the same thing out over and over and over again. So some new content that can really help people.
We deserve to be free.
Yes,
it is our birthright.
Absolutely, 100%. We're on the same page on that.
Yeah, bro.
All right.
So we got this thing called mind. Maybe we'll figure it out one day.
Absolutely. I'll sign us off here for a Success for Life podcast. Till next time, Coach Schumann signing off.